Good afternoon, everyone. Happy sunny April day, right? We, on behalf of STHM's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us this afternoon for our April Diversity Monthly celebration, where we are focusing on accommodating the autism community. Again, my name is Dr. Deborah Blair. I'm the organizational director for STHM's ODEI, and I'm joined by two of my colleagues today.
Hi all, I'm Naima Hall. I'm Director of Student Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in affiliation with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion within STHM. Happy to be here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Saporin. I am the Assistant Director of Graduate Enrollment here at STHM, and I have the lovely pleasure of being the Events Committee Chair for the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So very excited to be here today.
Excellent. Today is really special. As I said, April is Celebrate Diversity Month. For STHM ODEI, we are spotlighting Autism Awareness Month as well as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And we're going to be doing this through a series of recorded and live events. So stay tuned to your emails. Keep an eye on the STHM ODEI website as well as our social media platforms. Today, we are really excited to be joined by some senior leadership from Comcast, Spectacor, and Wells Fargo. We have Ms. Andrea Agnew, who is Comcast VP of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We have Joseph Meade, who is the Vice President of Community Relations and Governmental Affairs. And we have Jason Tempesta, who is Director of Alumni and Community Development. As we know, we have some significant and very powerful sport organizations within our community in Wells Fargo. We are really excited for you to join us and talk to us today a little bit about all of your initiatives that you're involved in terms of serving the autism community. But let's start out with you introducing yourselves, and then we'll jump right into our questions. So, Ms. Agnew.
Yes. Good afternoon, and thank you for having us. My name is Andrea Agnew. I have been with the Comcast family for more than 15 years and just recently joined the Spectacor family as Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I am pleased to be with you all this afternoon and to work with these gentlemen. Autism is something that is near and dear to my heart. I am a mother of a 24-year-old autistic daughter. She is amazing and has taught us so much about what's important in life, but also how to navigate the world as well. So I am excited to be on this panel with you all this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Meade.
Yep, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again, Temple University, for the opportunity. I am just a few weeks behind Andrea as far as my arrival within Comcast Spectacor. I've been here roughly about 8 weeks now. I previously came from academia, working at LaSalle University in the role of Chief of Staff to the President. So this opportunity and this conversation is one that has certainly been very well received. I know personally, some of my work has spanned not only through at the university, but then once again, having the opportunity to work for more recently in Governor Wolf's administration in the Department of Community Development. Addressing autism was a significant issue as a part of his administration. And once again, as a part of my fact finding, coming here and learning a lot and you'll hear more detail from Jason shortly, but a lot of the work in which the organization here, more importantly, the Flyers in itself, has been in support of this particular community. And I know personally, I've had the opportunity to experience through my engagement with City Council person Derek Green, who has made this one of his major priorities throughout the course of his tenure in City Council. So once again, thank you again for the opportunity.
Awesome, fantastic. And Jason Tempesta.
Hi everyone. Just want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. My name is Jason Tempesta. I am in my 15th season with the Philadelphia Flyers, 7 of which have been spent, the last 7 as the Director of Community Relations, and working day to day closely with Joe here, who is on board with us now. And it's our job to basically represent the Flyers in the community and use our team, our players, our alumni to really be able to be impactful in the community, supporting several different causes which affect our fan base. One which is near and dear to us is the autism community and supporting those families that are on the autism spectrum.
Fantastic. Okay, we're going to get started. And actually, we're going to start with you, Andrea.
Andrea, so you talked a little bit about your 15-year experience with Comcast, but this role as Vice President of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion is relatively new. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the strategies that Comcast Spectacor will be implementing or can expect under your leadership?
Sure, certainly. So I will tell you first that Jason's going to be the star of the show because he has the institutional knowledge. You know, he and I, we did a prep call before the panel, and we talked about the work that's already been done and the foundation that's been laid. So I have been with Comcast for more than 15 years. My background is DE&I. So the Comcast family has a history of inclusive practices. My role coming into Spectacor, they have a wonderful culture, and my role here is just enhancing a culture that is already established with embedding inclusive principles and practices that have already been a part of the Comcast family. And so in the cable division, we already have a program that's focused on autism at work. And so you think about, as the Comcast family, a large family that has acquired NBC Universal and Sky in the UK. We have programs that have that is inclusive of sourcing, outreach, and hiring individuals on the spectrum that are a part of our work environment. I have a dual role. I lead a PMO in our total rewards department, and I hired a young man who is an architect, a systems architect, who software developer, design. Jerry has been with the company for more than 10 years, started out as a coordinator in the Comcast University that's now called ULearn. And he has been a wonderful addition to the team that I run. It's a $2.1 billion PMO across the Comcast NBC Universal Spectacor enterprise. And he builds systems, software development, process improvement, and process automation. Well, he's part of that program that is Autism at Work. And so we will leverage some of those resources and some of the programs and strategies that have already been designed in the Comcast family and bringing them over to Spectacor. Another thing that is important when you think about the work that the groundwork that's already been laid by Spectacor, we've already set up a training committee, a training DEI committee. And so what we're doing to prepare our internal employees, whether they're sales, growing the game of hockey, marketing, marketing, sales, programming, we will take our employees on that learning journey as well, building the cultural competencies of inclusion, of how we acquire talent, how we work with peers with autism, again, leveraging the resources from that we already have in the Comcast family.
That's fantastic. I mean, one of the things that we really see a push for now is from the employment standpoint. How are we really looking at serving the community fully, not only through service opportunities, but employment opportunities for folks to have that independence and have that platform to have a voice within organization.
Yes, we partnered with E&Y and SAP about 4 or 5 years ago. We piloted that program with at the cable headquarters with SAP and Ernst & Young, and so we wanted to start with people who had already done it. So the minimal viable product to say for the proof of concept. So we started with them before we could replicate it and repeat it. So, but we took our hiring managers through the process as well, and then our people leaders. So it wasn't enough to say that we were going to try it to see if it worked. We had to create the environment of belonging for not only the potential employee, but for our people leaders, and give them the skills and the competencies as well.
That is fantastic. So let's stay in the vein of looking at this from an organizational perspective. So we've talked about the employment side. Give us a little bit more detail, and either of our panelists can answer this. Give us a little bit more detail of how you're integrating that point of service where we're working with the clientele. how are you integrating that into the, the organizational structure? What kinds of trainings, or, for those folks that are going to be working hand in hand, they're going to be the folks greeting folks in the center. What kinds of things are being done to?
So, Deborah, like I said, so in my role, we have just recently created the project charter for the DEI training committee. And so we just recently completed that last week. And that's part of our roadmap, which we'll be launching in June for Spectacor. And so we have not launched that yet. I've been with the group for a little over 4 months. And so that's, we just completed our discovery phase, created the project charter, and part of the training will happen in Q1 for the new fiscal year for Spectacor. And we will have quarterly training for internal employees as well. And that's when you'll begin to see the level of engagement from internal, developing the skill sets of our employees before dealing with the public.
That's fantastic.
Great. And just to kind of go off of that question, kind of like a part two, I personally, my background in the autism community, I do have a brother who's 26, who is on the spectrum. He's the light of my life. We are very close in age. So that is absolutely something that I have experienced firsthand. And going to an arena like the Wells Fargo Center, it's definitely a different experience for them. So to kind of go off of Dr. Blair's question, what, if any, have been some of those challenges that have come along the way?
So I will turn that over to Jason, and he probably even has probably more insight for the previous question that was actually asked. He could probably tell you some of some stories that he shared with me that will probably be relevant to what has been the level of engagement and how they've been prepared to address the clients, consumers that have engaged with us. Once we get him off of mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that is a good segue. So we've taken baby steps as we're learning each new season for the Philadelphia Flyers, working with the experts, working with the nonprofits, working with the clinicians, like I was telling Andrea this morning. So we teamed up several years ago with a nonprofit organization called Autism Inclusion Resources, and they specialize essentially in training businesses to be able to understand the signs of autism and make families feel welcome. So they work with other sports teams in the cities. They work with the Philadelphia International Airport to make it comfortable for families that might be on the spectrum to fly. So we do a training in the preseason of every Flyers home game on the signs, again, on the signs of autism that might be seen. So what we've learned is a lot of families, you might be a little hesitant to bring your son or daughter to a Philadelphia Flyers game where you might not think it's going to be the best situation, the best environment for them. But we've actually kind of gone the other way with it, and we want to make it all inclusive and welcoming to families. So that our event staff at the arena are aware of what you're going through and the things that your child may be doing because they're trained on it. So you're not going to see someone give a crooked eye at the Wells Fargo Center to you, or you're not going to be judged one bit when you come down to the Wells Fargo Center, because if we see someone who might be on the spectrum acting in the typical ways that they do, parents can rest assured and be comfortable that we know how to help them. We know where to send them to a quiet area. We know we're trained to be able to meet those needs where maybe we weren't before, and a lot of places aren't, which is why families don't go out in social settings to begin with.
Yeah, so it's interesting when Jason and I were talking about it, they were being proactive because they knew what the signs are, especially sensory, right? So whether it's light or sounds, you can, so the staff was already trained to see what those warning signs or those triggers were for people on the spectrum, right? Where if the eye movement, or they start, the fidgeting, and so they were aware of those things and they would know where to direct the family. So they were really proactive, which is the benefit of working with organizations that are preparing you for that. Jason, you want to tell the story about the families when they had planned to come to the game, but not to the game, but to go to the autism room to visit the.
I will, which made my day. One thing I do want to add: not only are we working with the experts in the autism community to train our staff, but we're also learned in doing stuff that we can do to prepare families. If you go on our website right now on PhiladelphiaFlyers.com in the community relations section, you essentially see a how-to guide in attending your first Flyers game. So whether it's a big special theme night, the home opener, or just a Tuesday night in February, you have everything laid out for you. For a family who might have a child on the spectrum, so you know what can expect, because we want to prepare them as much as possible so they're not overwhelmed when they walk in the door. So you're going to see what a ticket looks like. These are the way that you enter. Why are we waiting in line to get in? Here's the family bathroom. Here's your quiet area where we need to go if we need to escape the noise. What is that god-awful loud horn every time the Flyers score? Where to go to get your sensory kits. So families can actually read that to the child and go over with them, so they're prepared when they walk in the door that this is what they're going to run into, this is what they're going to see, this is what they're going to hear every time they come to a Philadelphia Flyers game. And going off what Andrea said, every year in April, usually on April 2nd, or the home game around April 2nd, World Autism Day, we have our annual Philadelphia Flyers Autism Awareness Day at one of our games. So of course we offered our sensory family lounge, which I'm sure we'll get into, where it's just a quiet area. If a family needs to leave their seats because, you know, the action might be a little too much and they need to take a break, they can go to a quiet area, and we have all sorts of activities and fun things for them to do in there with the game on TV, so you don't have to miss any of the action. And one of the families actually reached out to us that bought a ticket for that specific autism game. And I learned when I talked to them in the sensory lounge that they had absolutely no, they had no purpose of going to actually visit their seat and watch the game anyways. They just wanted to be in the environment, in the arena, and they bought the ticket to the game just to spend the entire night in our autism sensory friendly lounge, which kind of made my day. And rest, you know, it proved the point that we're welcoming and receptive to those families on the autism spectrum.
Dr. Blair, you're muted.
There we go again.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. Got you too.
You are not the only one. And our Zoom community knows this is not the first nor the last time you will hear someone say, you know, but you know, that you made a point there that I want to just highlight, because I love our Philadelphia sports team. We really want to hear a lot more of those god-awful horns every time the Flyers make a goal. So we'll be very upset. We want to hear those horns over and over and over again.
You and me both. I think we have the loudest goal horn in the league, but we have not heard it nearly enough the times this season. Trust me.
It's coming. It's coming. So one of the things you said is you work with a lot of the community organizations around the training piece. We know that there's strong advocates, you know, around the country, certainly in Philadelphia. From a community perspective, are you doing any external, or are there plans to do any external connects with those community advocates as a part of bringing them into the arena, or just, you know, again, more awareness around what you are doing in terms of supporting the community?
100%. Great question. And it's a two-way street. So first and foremost, we work with some of the best clinicians and the best nonprofits supporting families all over our region, in PA, New Jersey, and Delaware. From Autism Speaks to the Center for Autism, the Autism Society of America, our local Philadelphia chapter, Autism Inclusion Resources, as I mentioned, Autism Delaware, just amazing nonprofits that are doing wonderful things for those families on the autism spectrum. So one of the things that we've tried to do, besides training our staff and getting families ready to attend their game, is making sure they are able to attend a game. And meaning, so we've learned, and Andrea can tell you firsthand, it's not cheap raising a child who might be on the autism spectrum or someone with special needs, right? And so when you come to a Flyers game, you think tickets, parking concessions, and all that. So we actually just 2 seasons ago devoted a program that Joe can attest to. We call it our community ticket grant program. So on these special nights where we have our sensory friendly lounge available, we reach out to our nonprofit partners, and it doesn't matter what night of the week or what month or who we're playing. Our management is very keen on blocking certain amount of tickets to certain amount of games that give the opportunity for nonprofit organizations to attend all year long. Dozens of nonprofits for dozens of causes. And when we have our sensory friendly lounge, we make sure they go to our nonprofit partners that I just mentioned so that they can, bring their families, bring their clinicians, and they don't have to worry about the price of a ticket. So we actually bring them into the house free of charge on us, and we have the sensory friendly lounge available. And not only do we obviously want to bring them into games and have them experience a Flyers game, we also do support them in their charity events as well. So kind of like I said, it's a two-way street between our nonprofit partners.
And if I may, I just want to chime in and heighten Jason's point. This is part of a larger campaign, and you'd asked about not only what are we doing operationally, but then also what we're doing really under the guidance of the NHL, the National Hockey League, and really under this campaign of Hockey is for Everyone. And what that does is it does not signify that, really it gives us really an open runway for us to once again identify various communities, which we have called non-traditional communities, and providing them a gateway, one, not only to the game from an activity standpoint, but then in addition to that, from an appreciation standpoint, becoming a fan, learning, and with Andrea's portfolio, just career experiences and opportunities, working for a professional sports team, working at a professional sports venue, which not only includes obviously the game of hockey, but concerts and a host and a different array of different type of event planning. But directly to what Jason has said is that, we're trying to structure and improve the nature of work in which we're doing with various segments of communities, whether that be the African-American community, the Latino community, the disabled community, the military, our veterans, and making sure that there's an appreciation for there, but really using the game as a motivator. And once again, that creates a level of attraction, and hopefully, as we continue to develop the programs in which Jason has been, heavily involved in for 15 seasons, Jason.
15, about to end my 15th season, yeah.
It shows just once again his commitment and passion, but he's been able to really develop a rapport within these various segments. And I think once again, we want to be able to increase and intensify what those relationships are as we continue to move forward, under the prowess and the guidance, not only of the NHL, but the good part now is we see it physically in the day-to-day of the senior leadership within Comcast Spectacor in the Wells Fargo Center.
That's super important. And, one of the things we always think about here, we got these celebrations where it's Autism Awareness Month, it's Hispanic Heritage Month, the idea that we should be doing this every day, that we open our doors, that we're not just focusing on a particular month. So it's fantastic for our students, our faculty and our staff to know that our partners are out there. They're not waiting for a month to acknowledge the diversity and richness of our communities, that there are these ongoing initiatives, especially for our students, to know what to expect as you join organizations. The expectation is you're going to create the next legacy of access and opportunity. So be a part of the change that continues as we look at our diverse communities. So that is fantastic.
And that's something, Dr. Blair, that you will see like with Joe, myself, and Jason, and some of the other leaders within Spectacor. We are all connecting the dots, that it's not just one day. This is what we are doing to embed this as what we do every day. It is not a ad hoc or a set aside. These are people practices, people policies that are threaded in the core of what we do. It's not a check the box. It is, we are here, we are in the community. It's not a once a month, you'll begin to see that this, like I said, a lot of this was groundwork that was already done. We are growing the game, and we are just solidifying the work that we're doing. And now we're able to communicate about it. We never really tell our stories really well, nowhere. Even in Comcast Cable, until we got acquired NBC Universal, I was the workforce diversity chair for NBC Universal. And when we acquired NBC, they told us we didn't tell our stories well, and they were journalists. So now we're able to tell our stories better, and that's what we're doing internally with Spectacor. We literally have these dots connected. And so we're happy that you guys had us here this afternoon to tell that story outside of our walls. So thank you.
Yes, perfect.
Absolutely. Thank you guys too. And Jason, you said it earlier that making sure that these parents, families, caregivers, those in the autism community know what it's going to be like when they walk into the Wells Fargo Center, from the time that they drive through the parking lot, get their ticket scanned, get to their seats, that they know what to expect. Because, you know, for those with children with on the autism spectrum and those who, you know, need that additional assistance, being able to prepare them makes it a little bit easier, so you know what to expect and they know what to expect. So you mentioned kind of walking us through that process. Can you speak a little bit more to the sensory room that you mentioned earlier, and also the sensory kits? You know, what do those entail? What's included in those? Kind of walk us through that.
Sure, absolutely. You know firsthand from being a part of the Flyers organization, Flyers game could be difficult for someone without sensory issues. So it could be overwhelming to anybody at some time. After 15 years, and sometimes it's still overwhelming to me. So, you know, as we mentioned, families should know, and hopefully, you know, that will reach more that might be able to find out that we're ready with open arms to support them, and that the Flyers games are a very inclusive place. One thing that started out, just specifically for talking about, you know, inclusion, one thing that started out, as we did several years ago, as you're aware, Michelle, for our annual Autism Awareness game, is we formed this sensory friendly lounge several seasons ago. And it was a big hit on that specific Autism Day. But as we all just discussed, that's not very inclusive to have it offered one game out of 82 a year, right? So last year we made a great breakthrough, and we were able to host 10 different games, 1 or 2 a month, until wonderful COVID-19 derailed our plans in March. But we're offering those spaces and those opportunities more readily available throughout the season. And the ultimate goal, as Joe and Andrea will say, as you know, renovations can, you know, continue on with the Wells Fargo Center, is to make that space available for every game, whether it's the home opener, whether it's Autism Awareness Day, whether it's the game before the holidays, whether it's a random Tuesday night in March. That space is available for families should they need it. And if no one visits it during a game night, that's not a bad thing either, but it's there if you need it. And some of the things that we have in the lounge is, again, going off working with the experts and the professionals. By no means do we pretend to know what should be in there. So we work with the professionals, and we've reached out to all of our nonprofit friends, and we said, this is what we have at our facilities, and these are what the people have at home. So just some prime examples are, when you come to a Flyers games, if you need them, there's always noise reducing headphones available to use that are sanitized at every home game, that you can have in the seats, in the lounge, wherever you need them. Also in our lounge are crash pads and Jenga and iPads and Play-Doh and weighted blankets, everything that families see, whether they're with their clinician at their facility or at home, you can also find at a Flyers game, which I don't think a lot of people know about. One of my favorite parts of the Autism Sensory Friendly Lounge, we work with an expert. I'm going to give her a shout out, Miss Jen West Gavin. She works for a company called Next Generation Neuropsychology LLC. And we kind of have an unofficial adopted dog named Lullaby, who is a service animal specifically for families on the autism community. So that's probably my favorite part of the lounge, because I'm an animal lover. But kids and families can come in and take pictures with Lullaby, pet Lullaby, and it just calms them down. Coming from your seats where it's loud, there might have been a goal, you might hear that goal horn, just to escape the action and be able to go into the lounge and be able to sit on the beanbag chair and play a game with your mom or dad, and you know, color. All the things that we have available to you, where it's a relaxing environment, helps ease the tension. And then you find that families, you know, once they're calm and they can go out and watch the game, they go watch a few minutes of the game. It's there when they need it.
You absolutely just made my day, saying that there is a dog there
Yeah.
for them. And it's so great that, you know, you've been able to tap into the partners, you've been able to tap into, you know, everyone, all the other nonprofits that are in the area, because, you know, it's a spectrum. No one person, not all people, their, you know, levels of competencies, you know, any physical, you know, abilities, disabilities, anything, everyone is different. Yep. So being able to have all those different options and to see you know, what are some people, what do they have at home? What do they do to, when they have moments, to calm themselves, to bring themselves back down to that equilibrium? So having that wide array of options in that sensory realm just goes to show that Comcast, Spectacor, Wells Fargo Center, the Flyers are being an advocate for those in the autism community.
Thank you. And although we have tons of positive reviews from those nonprofits and the families, by no way, shape, or form is this a finished initiative. We continue to keep learning. We're only going to grow this thing from here on out. You know, so we're always, you know, asking what else should we get in the lounge? What should we offer at game? Is there additional training that we should do? So like I said, we're always learning ourselves, trying to gain that knowledge so that we can benefit the families that are coming, you know, to be our fans that night.
Right. Michelle, you really hit on something. What Jason was describing is that care continuity, but what you hit on was that there is not a one size fit all in the spectrum, or with a child with special needs or a young adult with special needs. And the significance of the partners that we partner with is that we will continue to learn and build. It's an evolution of what else do we need to know? What else do we need to learn? And what Jason was just describing is that when you show up in the sensory lounge, there is something that is familiar, not only with the individual, but with their family, and they have a way to remedy that. And that's what's really unique about it. And so we will continue to partner with those people who will continue to teach us, and we will continue to learn and adapt and adopt those things that will continue to help us be better for that community.
This has been a fantastic conversation today. This is, you know, again, very enriching for our students, because we do embed this idea of understanding the impact and ways that our students will influence inclusion in various facets of the industries as they graduate or through their internship. So we have asked students to, you know, submit questions for you. So I've selected a question for each of you that is coming from our students to kind of wrap us up this evening. And I'm going to start with you, Joseph. And so this question comes from Jason, and he's asking, you know, from a governmental affairs perspective, right? How has the government stepped up to assist Wells Fargo in their work, or how would you want them to step up moving forward to be supportive in the autism work, or the, you know, the inclusion work that you're doing?
No, it's a really good question, Dr. Blair. And I think, honestly, there's always this answer that there's more that could be done. I do know that, and I referenced this in my opening remarks, in that when you have a champion who has been personally impacted, who sits in an elected capacity, that certainly elevates the issue. And nonetheless, what, you know, Councilman Green has done a very, very good job as far as, once again, communicating his concern, highlighting it, whether it be through city council recognition of various organizations or entities that are heightening efforts, but then more importantly, trying to identify remedies. And that would be, you know, directly through the city's health department, and just different opportunities as it relates to future inroads within our public school system. I know that that's something, the areas in which, once again, for those students who, you know, do have to, I guess, not struggle, but once again, their challenges, their own personal challenges, and being able to provide levels of support on a day-to-day basis, and not certain schools, but all schools. And I think, once again, for us, I think, you know, we're going to continue to push that needle. I think, you know, things that we're able to do, once again, with a professional sports affiliate, you know, people love sports. People love going out and going to games. And I think, more importantly, that resonates within various communities. And any opportunity that we can do to, once again, partner with a particular group, or partner with a particular program, you know, certainly bodes well, not only for that organization, for the autism community, but then also, lastly, for the Flyers and also for Comcast Spectacor. So once again, putting ourselves at the end of the stick, and making sure that the issue is paramount. And that's something I think we're going to continue to challenge and continue to move on folks, and then also work with folks as well too. So to answer that question, once again, I don't think there's ever going to be a day, you know, hopefully there will be, but you know, as it stands right now, I think that there's always more that can be done.
Thank you so much. Jason, this question is for you and it's from Terrence. He's asking about your role in terms of the community development process. It says, how do you think you can be able to educate the public more about Autism Awareness Month, right? You really have set the tone for what we do internally and working with those advocacy groups. So what about the general public? How do we bring that awareness to everyone? And what could be your role in that?
Well, first, you guys are helping a lot today, so thank you for bringing light to what we do. But I think it's both an internal and external thing that we can do, and Andrea can chime in at any point. Again, it's about making sure that every single staff member at Comcast Spectacor, everyone associated with the Philadelphia Flyers knows exactly, what we're doing at every home game and why we're doing it in regards to being prepared to, to have families on the, in attendance on the autism spectrum. And then, it's putting it out there on social media. It's promoting our Autism Sensory Friendly Lounge, because you're right, Terrence, great question. Not a lot of people know the steps that we've taken thus far or the vision that we have moving forward. So, we'll continue to internally not only get better from a training standpoint, but also let it be known, because there's a lot of families out there that don't know they can attend a Flyers game, and this is there. So it's just working with our nonprofit partners to reach as many families as possible, using our internal resources, which are second to none within the Philadelphia Flyers and Comcast Spectacor, via our PR communications team, our social media team, to let it be known the steps that we're taking and the things that we're trying to do. So that we can reach the broadest audience possible throughout our fan base in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, so that they know, again, it's not just, this is the Flyers Autism Awareness Day, this is what they have going on. The same thing that applies on Autism Awareness Day applies every single home game at the Wells Fargo Center. So we'll continue to do a better job of trying to educate those of what we're doing at our arena, and get as many people in the arena every single night that we possibly can, that might be impacted, that might be on the spectrum, to make them feel welcome.
Fantastic, fantastic. And our last question for the afternoon is for you, Andrea. And this is coming from Evan. So he says, in your new role, what are ways that you really want to set the tone for Wells Fargo, Comcast Spectacor to be kind of the best? You're stepping above the rest in terms of what you do for DEI or inclusion.
Right. So Evan, that's a really good question. One of the things that I will say is that we at Comcast Spectacor, Wells Fargo Center, and the Flyers, we already have the makings of a great organization. We are all diverse in every way, all of us. We are all we all have culture. We all come from a background, so we are all diverse. It's inclusion that matters. You can have diversity without being inclusive. But you can't be inclusive without creating a diverse environment. So we are doing the things that we just talked about this afternoon with autism, like making sure that our people practices and our people policies are not just a one-time hit. You heard Jason speak so passionately about what we're doing in the sensory lounge, but the day-to-day things that we are proactively doing to prepare not only our internal folks, but working with our partners to make sure that the work that we're doing around this in the autism community, that we are making sure that that is something that we do, not just for autism, but with people with disabilities. We're doing that in our LGBT community. We're doing that enhancing our outreach for underrepresented people that we see that's not in our workforce. We're doing that in our hiring practices. For the talent that we already have internally in the organization, we're looking at training, development, and advancement for all employees, but more importantly, where there are underrepresented folks in leadership, and ensuring that everyone gets the equal opportunity and equity in the organization to have a full and productive career in the organization and a sense of belonging.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Fantastic. I don't think you could have said it any better. Listen, this has been a wonderful, wonderful session. So informative. I know our students, our staff, and our faculty will come away from viewing this and thinking and understanding the impact that you have had and you will continue to have in communities in many different ways in terms of diversity of Philadelphia, because we are that melting pot, right? We call Temple the diversity university, but we are within probably one of the most diverse cities around the country, so we enjoy that. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today for this session. As we are closing out our spring 21 sessions, we have a few more events lined up for April, and then we will roll into May when we close out with our mental health awareness month and some stress relieving activities that we're going to do. I'm going to invite our panelists. If you'd like to join us for a few activities, you're more than welcome to do so. It should be fantastic. But again, this has been a wonderful session. It is wonderful to know that we have such an involved organization that is really taking an active role, not a passive role, an active role in all facets, internally and externally, to better our city and to better the product that we put out in terms of sport. So thank you so much. All right.
Thank you both. Thank you all, and thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.